Well, aloha, and thank you for coming. And not that you had a choice of not coming or not, but my wife and I, Leslie, where are you? My wife there, the pretty lady with the red lei and the white top, but it's an honor to be here with you. We have gotten to know not only your teachers, but your principal, and you guys have an amazing privilege. And it's what your generation is going to do that is going to change not only the pro-life generation, but you're going to change Hawaii. Hawaii has had some real darkness coming into it because of anti-life and really anti-God, but you're the generation that's going to really make a difference. So we're going to take you to med school today. So you are here at Pearl Harbor Christian Academy, an excellent center for academics, but not only excellent academics, but it's also soundly based on biblical values, because all the answers to every question you will have in the rest of your life is there in the scriptures. And we're going to show you that all the questions can be answered when we understand the scriptures, but also, who is the creator of all science? God. True science will 100% every single time protect God's preborn in the womb, because God loves his preborn from that moment of conception. Just like sometimes we don't put in the effort to understand scriptures, to understand what the right answers are, sometimes we don't take the effort and make the effort to understand true science. So my job today is to take you to medical school and show you some of that true science. This is me. Anybody like surfing? I mean, it's Hawaii. If you like surfing, raise your hand. We got a few surfers. That's me. Now, which one's me? Is it me on this side or me on that side? No, it's me with the Ron John colored board. That's me over on that side a lot of years ago. But now I kind of made a shift. Anybody like e-foiling now? I love e-foiling. That's my new effortless way where I don't have to paddle to make I don't even need to have a wave. I just press a button like a Tesla and off I go. But I love my e-foil. But this is what I did for 30 years of my life. I delivered babies, took care of moms, took care of their babies, and I actually delivered 5,000 babies before I retired last year and went into full-time ministry. Why are we in full-time ministry? Because that's where God was calling us. This is where I get my joy. So as you were in high school and as you were in college and as you were working on your careers, always think, how can I use my knowledge, my skills, and my experience to serve the kingdom of my Lord? Because that is what it means to serve the kingdom of our Lord. It's great to be saved, but our salvation in the gospel is not about just going and being transported to heaven someday. It's not about transportation. It's about transformation. And that's what you are learning here, to incorporate the knowledge and skills that you have in order to serve the kingdom of our Lord here on earth. That's my grandson. My grandson's name is Ace. He's only 5 months old. We try to see him every month, but he is beautiful, created in the image of God. We just started a tour. We are going to colleges all throughout the United States, not just Christian colleges, but secular colleges, and we call it the Abortion is Not Healthcare Tour. And we're going to take you and give you a piece and an exposure to the college tour of how we can defend and win the battle for life. But it comes down to hope. Hope is so important. Anybody here ever been sick? Anybody here ever been to the hospital? Your pastor has been to the hospital. Your pastor has had heart disease. Your pastor is still dealing with cancer. One of the most important aspects when we have patients that are dealing with a challenge is that they have hope. And who is the great physician? Jesus is the great physician. It's great having talented doctors, but Jesus is the great physician. But we also know when patients are optimistic and they have hope that I'm going to get through this cancer, I'm going to get through this surgery, they heal much better. So we're going to give you some hope today. When it comes to sometimes, do babies have to be delivered early? Yes. Now, a term pregnancy, a pregnancy that made it all the way, is 40 weeks. We have had babies survive at 21 weeks and 0 days. This is a baby that was delivered in Iowa. We had a baby that was delivered just north of us at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, delivered at 21 weeks and 1 day. Both of these babies weighed less than 1 pound. They weighed about 14 ounces, but they were able to go home, and they're doing beautifully today. That gives me hope as far as how we are diagnosing, treating, and curing babies in the womb, because the babies in the womb are my patients, and I'll do anything for my patients, and those patients are mine from the inside of the womb. We have tiny little babies that weigh a pound or two with lots of technology. This baby not only has a hat on to keep it warm, has a breathing tube, has a feeding tube, and all this technology and monitors. And you think, I don't know if that's baby going to live. A couple years later, there's that same baby as a beautiful young lady. You see this young girl, and she got a little bit of hair up on the top of her head. She again has feeding tubes, breathing tubes. She has IVs, being cared for by amazing doctors and nurses. A few years later, what happened to that little bit of fuzz up on the top of that head? You got a beautiful young lady like that who was holding up her own picture when she was a tiny little preemie. This girl, this tiny little girl, her name is Haley. Haley has breathing tube. She actually has a mask giving her oxygen. She has a feeding tube. And you think, I don't know if that baby's going to survive. Well, guess what Haley is doing now? Haley is now working as a nurse in an intensive care nursery, and she is actually helping patients breathe on the inside. She was tiny, just like we were all tiny, but she is a beautiful person, and she is providing skills and medical, knowledge to save the lives of babies. We're going to do something different. You guys have amazing technology and amazing classwork here, and you are being prepared academically and spiritually and biblically for any challenge you are faced. But today, I'm going to add one more aspect of the amazing educational system that you are getting right here at Pearl Harbor Christian Academy, because today, we're going to add something. We're going to add the Pearl Harbor Christian Academy School of Medicine. Anybody want to go to medical school when you grow up? Great! We need Christian doctors. Jesus is the great physician, but we need Christian, biblical worldview individuals that are in the healing arts, and so that's great. I mean, you're going to, who's graduating this year? Where are my seniors? All right, guess what? You want to be a physician? You were thinking, what? If you want to be a physician and you're a senior, guess what? You're almost halfway. You figure I'm graduating. Now you got 4 more years of college, you have 4 more years of medical school, then you have 4 more years of residency training. That's what I had to do what I was able to do. So welcome to medical school. Do you guys get any Latin training? Do you go through Latin? All right. This is your first lesson in Latin, all right? And when we're going to start off your Latin class, the first phrase that we're going to learn is this phrase, and we're going to say it together in a second, but it's primum non nocere. So let's say it together. Primum non nocere. What did you just say is your first phrase in Latin? You just said, first, do no harm. This is the very first lesson that I was taught when I started medical school almost 40 years ago. We're going to give you needles. We're going to give you scalpels. We're going to give you radiation chemotherapy. We're going to give you laparoscopes and robots to play with. These are tools that are meant to heal, not to harm. So rule number 1 is first, do no harm. The second rule that we're all taught when we start in medical school is that patients have rights. All 50 states have laws that protect the rights of all patients. There's federal law that protects the rights of all patients. But here's the important thing. Our rights come from God. It is the duty of good government to protect those rights which were given to us by God. I was speaking at the University of Florida College of Medicine, like 5,000 miles away, and we were speaking to the medical students. And I asked them, I said, if I have a patient that's down in the ER and they need a blood transfusion, and if they don't get a blood transfusion, they will die. But that patient wasn't born in the United States. Do I still have a moral and legal obligation to provide them with a life-saving blood transfusion, even though they weren't born in the United States? And one of the guys in the back, he stood up, he goes, Dr. Lile, we've been taught here at the University of Florida College of Medicine that a patient is a person who is entitled to respect and bodily integrity, and it doesn't matter if that patient wasn't born in the United States. You have a moral and a legal obligation to provide that patient with a life-saving blood transfusion. I said, I agree with you 100%. And I said, just so you know, the patient that was in the ER that needed a blood transfusion received that life-saving blood transfusion, even though they weren't born in the United States. Yet. What do you mean yet? Because we have now advanced where we are diagnosing, treating, and curing babies in the womb. We don't have to wait until after they're delivered already. And I'm going to show you with the amazing technology how we are diagnosing, treating, and curing these babies. The first procedure is called a PUBS. What's a PUBS? Big word. It is a peri-umbilical blood sampling and transfusion. What does that mean? We are saving the lives of babies in the womb by giving them a blood transfusion. Anybody ever donated blood? Any of the seniors, you ever donate blood? We have your principal. You have other people. Donated blood. What are they doing? They are fulfilling the greatest commandment. Remember when Jesus was asked, the Pharisees go, teacher, what's the greatest commandment? They thought they were going to trick Jesus. Guess what? You don't trick Jesus when it comes to asking him questions about Scripture. And what did Jesus say? He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and your neighbor as yourself. If your principal and staff members have given their own blood to save the life of a person, is that their neighbor? Yeah. Saving the life of your neighbor. But if you have O negative blood and you donate some of that blood, we can use that blood to save the life of a baby inside the womb, because that baby in the womb is not a blob of tissue. It is also your neighbor. You are treating your neighbor as yourself. Well, why would a baby need a blood transfusion? Because from the moment of that baby's conception, not only is that baby genetically different from the mom and genetically different from that dad and genetically different from the other 8 billion people on the planet, that baby can not only have a different blood type from the mother, but half the time it's a different gender. And welcome to medical school at Pearl Harbor. How many different genders are there? There's 2. And that happens at the moment of conception. You are not going to be a boy or going to be a girl from that moment of conception. When you are just one cell, you are a boy or you are a girl. But sometimes moms and babies can have a different blood type. And mom's blood and baby's blood doesn't mix together. Everything the baby needs, it comes from the mom's blood system through the placenta. Everything the baby needs to get rid of, it gives to the mom through the placenta, through the belly button and the umbilical cord. But sometimes when you have mom has one blood type, baby has another blood type, moms don't want to hurt their babies, but they can have antibodies which can cross the placenta and start to attack their babies, and the baby's blood count drops. Well, what do we do when we recognize on ultrasound that the baby's blood count is dropping? We can, number one, if we're at term, we just deliver the baby, get them out of that environment. But what do you do when the baby's only 17 or 18 weeks along? Babies can't survive yet on the outside at 17 or 18 weeks. We can actually do a life-saving blood transfusion for a baby while it's in the womb by guiding blood to the baby. So somebody has donated O-negative blood. We take a needle, we guide it through the skin of the mom. With ultrasound, we take it right to the umbilical cord, which is the cord that comes out of the belly button, and we can actually go right into the umbilical cord and give that baby a life-saving blood transfusion. I'm going to walk you through. We did a series of animations. We actually have a curriculum that's 10 chapters in length just for people like you. So here's a baby. This baby kind of looks a little bit pale. The baby has anemia, and the baby is going to die without blood. So we take the blood. If you've donated blood, we can take your blood, your O-negative blood, put it in this syringe. Then we use an ultrasound over there on the other side. We take that needle, we go through the skin of the mom, go through the wall of the womb or the uterus, and we're going to take that needle and we take it directly down to the umbilical cord. And there's 2 arteries and 1 vein. We specifically choose, are we going to go in the artery and the vein? We always put it in the umbilical vein. So you can see arteries are going this way, veins are going that way. But we'll see the blood flow going from the baby to the placenta and from the placenta back to the baby. We'll take that needle, we're going to guide it right here into that umbilical vein. And I'm going to show you the inside. That's that needle. We just passed that needle. There's not enough blood here on the inside. And now we're giving that baby a life-saving blood transfusion. We're going to tank that baby up and give it more blood. Sometimes we have to do this every 3 or 4 weeks because the mom is still attacking her baby. If we can do a life-saving blood transfusion for a baby while it's still on the inside, is that a patient? Yes. And a patient is a person, no matter how small. And you are doing that here in Honolulu. You are giving blood transfusions to babies in the womb. It's like, oh, it can't get cooler than that. You're doing blood transfusions? It's going to get cooler than that, y'all. Anybody happen to be a twin here? You identical twins? No? Let's talk identical twins. Twins are so cool. I mean, I've delivered twins, I've delivered triplets, I've delivered quadruplets. But every time I have a pregnant patient, how many patients do I have? I got 2 patients. When I have a mom with twins, how many patients do I have? Do the math. I got 3. And I've delivered triplets, I've got 4 patients, and I've delivered quadruplets. I had 5 patients that came to my office every single day. All four of my quadruplets just graduated from the University of West Florida. They're all ROTC serving in the military, and they're doing very, very well. They are perfectly normal. But let's talk twins, because you have 2 sets of twins here in the school? Ah, that's cool. Did the twins sit together or no? No? All right, let's talk twins. So let's talk identical twins. There's something called twin transfusion syndrome, TTTS. Now, you guys are all nice Christian twins, so you share everything perfectly, right? I mean, toys, clothes, food, candy. I mean, you guys share everything perfectly. Well, there's some little sinners on the inside that are sharing one placenta that don't share things equally. And so what happens when they don't share equally? These are identical twins. One egg, one sperm came together, and before day 13, they divided into 2 identical copies. Do these kids look identical to you? No. What's going on? Why is this identical twin bigger than this identical twin? Well, I'm going to call this kid Arnold. I'm going to call this kid Danny, because Arnold is saying, I want more carbohydrates. I want more protein. Give me more electrolytes. Meanwhile, Danny's over here on this side, and Danny's going, come on, man, give me a carb. Give me one protein, just a little bit. If the little one dies, the big one dies. So how do we do? What do? We actually teach them how to share. Why did I call them Arnold and Danny? Because there was a movie back when I was a kid called Twins, and it made no sense. How does Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, are they twins? It was twin transfusion syndrome. So what do we do when they don't know how to share on the inside? It's like, just share, be nice. We actually send our patients down to Texas Children's Hospital in Houston. What do? They teach them how to share. How do you teach kids inside the womb how to share? They actually have a doctor there who he thinks he's Luke Skywalker, and he thinks that he can use his lightsaber. So what do? They go inside the womb with a fetoscope, a camera that goes right on the inside, but this camera also has a laser. And what do they do with that laser? They take that laser on the inside and they go bzzz, and they cauterize the blood vessels, and they say, Arnold, this is your side of the placenta. Danny, this is your side of the placenta. Knock it off and play nice. They will do that at 22 weeks gestation. They watch them for 10 days. They send them back to us in Florida. We follow them for the rest of the pregnancy. When we sent them down, we might have Arnold, who was at the 99th percentile. But then you had Danny, who was maybe at the 1st or the 2nd percentile. Once we have surgically taught them how to share, by the time we deliver them, they might be 60, 40, 70, 30. So if we can teach children how to share inside their mother's womb, is that a patient? Yes. And a patient is a person, no matter how small. Have you ever seen this picture before? We are now doing what's called spina bifida surgery and saving babies' lives while they're still on the inside. This was 1999, the same year that I took over. The practice I took over in 1999 was the largest abortion clinic in Pensacola, Florida. We took over the practice. We had him sign, the former physician, the abortionist, sign a form where he couldn't be a physician anywhere for the next 2 years. And we stopped all the abortions. And today, 26 years later, there still is not a single abortion clinic along the Florida Panhandle. But this was a procedure, and this was a study called the MOMS trial. And this was a study that was being done at Vanderbilt University, because they were wondering, when kids have a defect in their spine called spina bifida, a lot of times these kids can't walk. Do you guys like walking? Walking is a good thing. They couldn't control their bladders. They couldn't control their bowels. So they thought, what if we fix this while the baby is still on the inside? And that's what the MOMS trial was about. A friend of mine, Michael Clancy, actually was in the operating room that day, and he's the one who took this picture, where you have the mom's womb or uterus there right here on the outside, and they've brought that on the outside. Then they made a small incision in the uterus, and even though they wanted to do spine surgery on the baby, the kid kind of stuck his hand out, kind of give a high one to the surgeon that's doing the surgery. You know, couldn't be a high five. His hand's too small, so he gives a high one to the one finger. And then they tucked the hand back in, and then they operated on that baby's defect in its spine. What they have found, now that they've been doing this surgery for 26 years, is that when they take the initiative and they operate on these babies while they're still on the inside, these babies 25 years later, they can go upstairs faster, they can go downstairs faster, they have better control of their bladders, better control of their bowels, they have fewer additional needs for surgeries. We have improved their quality of life for the rest of their lives by treating them as a surgical patient on the inside of the womb. A patient's a person, no matter how small. All patients have rights. So if we can do spina bifida corrective surgery on a baby while it's on the inside, is that a patient on the inside? You better believe it is. I was at Georgia Right to Life, and I was giving a lecture kind of like this. And after I finished the lecture with 500 people there, this kid came walk across the stage, and he goes, "Dr. Lile," he goes, "you use my picture all the time." I looked at his name tag. Can you read his first name? Samuel Armas is that baby right there. That baby who stuck his hand out came and met me at Georgia Right to Life when he was about 8 years old. But then Samuel, I've been following Samuel. He graduated from Auburn University. That's Samuel when he's in college. Was Samuel a patient with rights here? Yep. Is Samuel a patient with rights and protection when I met him at Georgia Right to Life here? Was Samuel a patient with rights when he was inside of his mother's womb having spina bifida corrective surgery? Yes. A patient's a person, no matter how small, and all patients have rights. So I'm going to actually show you how we are doing that surgery. This is actually really easy. We're not going to show you the surgery. I want you to show you exactly what a baby looks like while it's in the inside. It's actually beautiful. We have a camera on the inside. I won't show you the surgery. Is that a blob of tissue? No. That is a baby, that is a patient that has a spina bifida defect, and now we are not even making the big incisions in the mom's womb. We're actually treating these babies with a scope. But now we're actually doing open heart surgery for babies while they're still inside their mother's womb. Anybody have a grandparent that has had open heart surgery? You have? We're now doing that while the baby's on the inside. I'm going to walk you through and show you exactly how we do this. Where do you take a baby that needs open heart surgery? Even though it's maternal fetal medicine, mom and baby, we actually take the baby to the fetal OR. That's where we operate on these babies. Here's the problem. You're in med school today. We're taking you to med school here at Pearl Harbor. This is an ultrasound. This is the outside of the baby's chest. What do you have on this side of your chest? Lung. What do you have on this side of the chest? Lung. What do you got right here in the middle that's going bum, 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 bum? You got the heart. So here's the baby's heart. You can see ventricles and you can see atria. Now, think anatomy. What's this big goomba here? That's the tumor. That is a cardiac teratoma. That is a tumor that is growing right here on the baby's heart. The baby's heart at 27 weeks is about the size of the end of my thumb. That tumor is about the size of my thumbnail. That tumor is growing so quickly, the doctors estimated your baby's going to die in a week or two because this tumor is going to press so hard on the baby's heart, the baby's going to die. They had two options. Option number one, let's deliver the baby, do open heart surgery, and then let the baby struggle to breathe as a 1.5 pound preemie at 27 weeks. They said, we have a second option. Rather than delivering your baby and having a 1.5 pound preemie struggling to stay warm and breathe, we think we can do this surgery while the baby's still on the inside. They're like, you're kidding me. No, we really think we have the team and the technology. This is the actual surgical team. 36 doctors, nurses, techs, circulators, people that weren't even in this picture that said, we're going to take care of this mom and this baby. 2 patients walked out, 2 patients with heartbeats, and then 2 patients with heartbeats left the room. What is abortion? Abortion is when you have 2 patients with heartbeats walk into the room and 1 patient with a heartbeat walks out of the room. If you're losing the heartbeats of half of your patients, that is not healthcare. This is healthcare. How many anesthesiologists do you think you had in the room? Do you know what an anesthesiologist is? It's a big word. This is the person that gives you medicine in your IV so you don't have any pain and you're asleep while they're operating on you and fixing you. They had 2 anesthesiologists. Why? Did mom get an anesthesiologist? Yes. But guess what? The baby had a totally separate anesthesiologist. I'm going to walk you through this amazing surgery. That is that baby's hand during the surgery. Because the mom had an epidural, she was completely numb and comfortable, and she was wide awake during all this. But then the pediatric anesthesiologist, to make sure the baby didn't have any pain, actually started an IV in the baby's hand. The baby was receiving pain medicine called fentanyl, and the baby was also receiving a paralytic called Norcuron. Why do you want to give the baby a paralytic? Because you don't want the baby moving around while they're trying to do surgery on that baby. 2 anesthesiologists because there were 2 patients. So I'm going to walk you through how they actually did the surgery. This is an animation. This isn't the actual surgery because we have that surgery, but we wanted to show this to you with a cartoon. So here you have a 3D animation of a baby inside the mother's womb. The baby's heart is beating about 120, 140 beats per minute. Here's that tumor, the cardiac teratoma, this kind of golf ball looking thing. Mom is an epidural. She's wide awake, but she's comfortable. The OB, like me, made an incision in the belly, made an incision in the fascia, made an incision in the womb, the uterus. They brought the baby's right hand. They brought the baby's left hand. They then cued the pediatric anesthesiologist who started an IV in that baby's right hand. Baby's getting pain medicine. Heart doctor came in, made an incision in the baby's chest. It took them 3 hours. They carefully removed that tumor from the baby's beating heart. It was perfect. The heart went, thank you very much for getting rid of that tumor. They closed the baby's chest, removed the IV, tucked the baby's hands back on the inside, closed the uterus, closed the skin, and they didn't deliver that baby for 10 weeks later. So if we can do open heart surgery of a baby while it's still in its mother's womb and remove a tumor, is that a patient? Yes. And a patient is a person, no matter how small. That's baby Rylan. Baby Rylan is doing extremely well. Baby Rylan had open heart surgery while baby Rylan was still in his mother's womb, and baby Rylan's doing great. You want a follow-up picture on baby Rylan? How's he doing now? There he is. He's a little Superman there on the inside. But again, now I want you to look at his chest. He had open heart surgery. Where's the scar? Baby Rylan was still growing and developing inside of his mother's womb for 10 weeks, 2.5 months before he delivered. That's why you can hardly see any scar tissue. And it's like, oh, it can't get cooler than that. It gets cooler than that. Do you know we're doing brain surgery for babies while they're still inside of their mother's womb? There's a condition called a vein of Galen malformation. What's the problem? You got a high pressure artery that made an abnormal connection directly with the baby's veins. So that high pressure artery, the veins aren't designed to take that kind of pressure. So the baby's vein is just blowing up. Just like if you were to use a gas station air hose to blow up a little kid balloon, what happens? Pop. This is going to pop. When we see a vein of Galen malformation, half of these babies after delivery, half of those babies get sick, and of the babies that get sick, half of those babies die. Nobody wants 25% of their patients, their babies in the womb, dying. So doctors at Boston Children's Hospital didn't like their babies dying either. So they said, why don't we fix it while the baby's still on the inside? Which is exactly what they did. I'm going to walk through with you how they are diagnosing, curing, and treating these babies in the womb as patients. So on the day of the surgery, mom had some anesthesia. They've already numbed up the back of the baby's head. They take this trocar and with an ultrasound, they guide it through the skin, through the wall of the womb or the uterus, and go right into the back of the baby's head. They then will guide it with ultrasound right through the skull into the brain. And here's the problem. You have this connection between a high pressure artery and the vein. And the vein's just blowing up and saying, I'm going to blow. I can't take the pressure. So what do? Brick by brick, they block that connection. They took a vascular coil number 1. It wasn't enough. They took vascular coil number 2. It wasn't enough. They added a third and they added a fourth. By the time they added a fourth coil, they had actually built a wall between the high pressure artery and the high pressure vein. And all of a sudden the vein goes, thank you very much. And it starts to relax. They then delivered that baby, and that's baby Denver. Baby Denver had vascular brain surgery while baby Denver was still inside of its mother's womb. Is that a patient? Yes. And a patient's a person, no matter how small, and all patients have rights. You want to follow up on baby Denver? How's baby Denver doing now? That's baby Denver. Baby Denver is a beautiful young lady. She had a life-threatening aneurysm in her brain that was fixed while she was ill inside of her mother's womb. A patient's a person, no matter how small. You ever seen this guy on TV? His name's Dr. Sanjay Gupta. He works for CNN, and that is not the Christian news network, all right? So he works for CNN, and he's actually a really brilliant guy. He's actually an adult neurosurgeon. He does brain surgery on people. And he heard, are you telling me they did a Galen malformation on a baby while the baby was still in its mother's womb? He goes, get me a film crew, get me a van, I'm going to Boston. He drove all the way to Boston, and he interviewed the doctor. I won't show you the surgery, but I want you to hear the words of Dr. Sanjay Gupta. For 25 years, I've been saying, when I have a pregnant patient, I've got 2 patients. If she has twins, I've got 3. If she's got triplets, I've got 4. And if she has quadruplets, I've got 5. Listen to Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Now keep in mind, in utero surgery also means they had to take 2 patients to the operating room instead of 1.
How many patients did he say? Yeah, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, very liberal guy, says when it comes to fetal surgery, they take 2 patients to the op room instead of 1. The mom is a patient and the baby is a patient. All patients have rights and patients have value. What is a patient? For those of you who are going to go into medical school, you're going to take care of patients all the time. A patient, by definition, is a person receiving medical treatment. Have I just shown you about a half dozen ways that we are diagnosing, treating, and curing babies in the womb? Yes. So the babies on the inside are patients, and if they are a patient, they have protection. All 50 states, including Hawaii, have laws that protect the rights of all patients, and you are doing these procedures here in Hawaii. You are doing blood transfusions at 18 weeks, diagnosing, treating, and curing patients while they're still inside of their mother's womb. 14th Amendment, you guys learn civics. You learn about the Constitution. You learn about the Bill of Rights. 14th Amendment says, nor shall any state deny any person of life, liberty, or property. If they are a patient, they are a person. If they are a person, they deserve protection. The 14th Amendment says they deserve protection. This is not a blob of tissue. This is an MRI. This is an MRI inside of the mother's womb, not a blob. Now, this kid thinks he can stand up, but there's not enough room to stand up on the inside. But he's like, I want to try. And it's like, wait a second. Maybe they can stand up, Yeah, babies can stand up on the inside. That's not a blob of tissue. Blobs of tissue do not stand up and struggle trying to stand up on the inside. That is a patient. But we're also going to talk about something very important here in Hawaii, and that's the abortion pill. The abortion pill in Hawaii can be provided to anybody. You don't have to be 18. You don't have to have your parents' permission. You don't have to have your parents' consent. The vast majority of abortions are not performed with a surgeon in an operating room. They are delivered by a pill through the mail room of the post office. That is how most babies are dying. This is a company called Aid Access. They are nationwide, all 50 states. And if you don't have a credit card and you don't have money, it doesn't matter. They will still mail you the abortion pill, which will kill that baby inside of your womb. But it's also dangerous. The abortion pill will kill a baby on the inside 98% of the time. Babies that are already this big, that have fingers and toes and eyes and fingerprints and toe prints. But you know what else? It's dangerous for the moms as well. This is a study that was produced by the Ethics and Public Policy Center, released actually today, 1 year ago. And what did it find? We've been told, and you've probably heard the ads, that the abortion pill is as safe as Tylenol. Is it as safe as Tylenol? No, it's a lie. In fact, they looked at 865,000 patients, which is 22 times more than all of the studies combined that led to the approval of the abortion pill. The abortion pill, when it first came out, they said, people will have complications, but it's less than 0.5% of the time. What was the truth? With this study, it showed it was 10.93% of the time. That's not 22% higher. That is 22 times higher. Anybody like Snickers? I love Snickers. That's my favorite candy bar. I love them frozen. Doesn't matter how. I like Snickers. If I'm in the airport and I see, oh, the sign says Snickers for $1, I'm going to get a Snickers because I like Snickers. I wish they were frozen, but they don't freeze them in the airport. I like them frozen. But say I swipe it and it goes beep, and it comes up $1.22. It's like, man, that's 22% higher than what I really wanted to pay for a Snickers bar. I still going to get it? Yeah, I like Snickers, whether it's a buck or whether it's $1.22. What if I scan it and it comes up and it says, that Snickers bar is $22? Anybody ever bought a $22 Snickers bar? Nope, I wouldn't either. 22%, yes. The abortion pill is 22 times more dangerous than what we were told. That is the $22 Snickers bar. These are what the data actually showed. After people took the abortion pill, and they actually looked at their insurance data. So this wasn't biased. They said, let's look at your insurance data. And if you were prescribed the abortion pill, we're going to file you from your insurance. What did they find? Of people who had taken the abortion pill, 865,000 women, they showed that almost 41,000 of those women had to go to the emergency room. Doesn't sound safe as Tylenol. 28,000 of those women hemorrhaged and had heavy bleeding. 24,000 of those women had to have an additional surgery because they didn't pass all of the pregnancy. 12,000 of those women got an infection or sepsis, and an infection was threatening their life. 3,000 of those women actually had a pregnancy that was tubal. A tubal pregnancy is when the pregnancy is not inside of the womb, it's somewhere outside of the womb. It's called an ectopic or a tubal pregnancy. My daughter almost died 3 days ago because she had a tubal and ectopic pregnancy. One of my partners had to take her to the operating room. They went inside. They found over 800 cc's. You know, like a 1 liter bottle of soda? It was almost 1 full liter of her blood was inside because she had an ectopic, a tubal pregnancy. She almost died, and we were here in Hawaii, and my partner took care of her. But when it comes to this, an ectopic or a tubal pregnancy is the #1 cause of death of women in the first trimester of pregnancy. Between 1 in 100 and 1 in 50 of all pregnancies will be an ectopic or tubal pregnancy. But guess what? How do you know if somebody has an ectopic or a tubal pregnancy? You have to do an ultrasound. Now with the abortion pill available through the mail, these women are not getting a ultrasound performed. Women are being harmed. Women are dying. When a woman receives the abortion pill, the instructions, if they get any instructions, it says, you're going to have bleeding, cramping, and pain. What are the symptoms of a rupturing tubal pregnancy? Bleeding, cramping, and pain. How is a woman supposed to know the difference between the abortion pill and having a rupturing ectopic pregnancy? So not only will this kill a baby that you just saw as my patient on the inside, it will kill that baby 98% of the time, but we have moms being harmed and we have moms that are dying as well. That is not health care. If you are just sending pills to people in the mail, that is not quality health care. Women deserve better than that. That is what a 10-week baby looks like. That is to scale. This tiny little baby, you can see fingers and toes, and this is not only being just used up to 10 weeks. There are, right here in Hawaii, there are places that will send it up to 12 weeks gestation. 70%, the majority of all the abortions in the United States are now performed with an abortion pill. Just last year, at the very least, there were 740,000 babies that died just from the abortion pill, and that number is going up every single year. How does it work? The abortion pill works by blocking this hormone called progesterone. Can you say progesterone? Progesterone. What is it? What do you do when you get a big word, you know, in your science class or in English class? You get a big word, what do? You're taught to break it down to little pieces. Break up a word. When you look at progesterone, it's a big word, but what happens when you break it up? This is the gestational steroid hormone. Everything that's good about a pregnancy is because of the hormone progesterone. You know what a conductor is? That's the person in charge of an orchestra. What's a coach? A coach, you have a basketball. Do you have a basketball team here? I saw the hoops outside. A coach is the person in charge of a team, a basketball team. Progesterone is essentially the coach of pregnancy. The progesterone will say, hey, come on, we are pregnant. We got to get more blood. We need to increase more nutrition. We need to supply this pregnancy. We're not going to have contractions. We're not going to have a menstrual cycle. Everything that's good about a pregnancy is because of progesterone. What does the abortion pill do? It blocks that hormone. So everything that was good about a pregnancy was because of progesterone. The abortion pill blocks that hormone progesterone. The woman's body, when she has a positive pregnancy test, it goes, hallelujah, amen, I'm pregnant. And the progesterone levels go up. But then say a woman is forced to take the abortion pill, or say she's even slipped the abortion pill, that baby will die. Well, that's incredibly sad. So normal pregnancy, you have a positive pregnancy test, the hormone level progesterone goes up. But was she forced to take the abortion pill or even slipped her the abortion pill? And I just saw a patient that was in Corpus Christi, Texas, that was pregnant, and her boyfriend didn't want her to have a baby. She wanted to have that baby. He slipped the abortion pill in her hot chocolate. Next day, she started to have bleeding, cramping, and pain, and she passed that 8-week baby. That was murder done with the abortion pill. So she is now trying to bring charges against him. But what happens if somebody have regrets? Have you ever said anything that you regret? Me? You ever done anything you regret? You ever answered a question on a multiple choice and afterwards like, why did I do that? I regret that. It was a stupid answer. We all do that. I mean, I do it all the time. My mouth goes faster than my brain, so I say things all the time that I regret. What do you do if a mom regrets because she took the abortion pill? And she said, I was under so much pressure. I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know I was ready to have a baby. My boyfriend didn't want me to have the baby. I took the abortion pill. Well, what do you do if they have regrets? You ever heard of a medicine called Narcan? Like if somebody takes too much of a narcotic, we can give them, they have regrets. They took too much of a narcotic. They're going to die. We give them Narcan, and it reverses that. That's the antidote. Do we have an antidote when somebody is taking the abortion pill? How do we get the progesterone levels to go up? Wouldn't it be cool if we had a pill that we could bring those progesterone levels up when they had regrets and their baby's going to die? Guess what? We do. Progesterone comes in a bottle. We actually use it in normal obstetrics all the time for lots of different reasons. When we have a mom who's taking the abortion pill and she goes, what did I do? And she has regrets, we give her progesterone and we can actually bring those levels up. We have a network of over 1,000 doctors nationwide that are here and are available to prevent that life being lost of that baby. We are successful 63% of the time. Have I tried it? Yep. In fact, that was the first baby. Mom had taken the abortion pill, and now that baby was on a path that baby was going to die 98% of the time. She looked for help. We provided her with the antidote, and that's that baby. That baby's name is Journey. Anybody want to be a pastor when they grow up? Anybody in the room? We have one pastor, one. Fantastic. God bless you and thank you for your calling. Use this as a story when you get in the pulpit. The baby, mom made a mistake, but now that baby is on a path where 98% of the time that baby's going to die. Mom has a change of heart. She has a change of mind. She looks for help. We meet her help and we help her out. And my wife and I will spend $109 to buy back the life of that baby, to reverse the effect of the abortion pill. How does that relate to every one of us? To me, my wife, your principal, and to you. 100% of us were all on a path where we were going to be eternally separated from God, and we were destined towards hell because we cannot do anything to save ourselves. We have a change of heart. We have a change of mind. Are we bought back with $109 worth of progesterone? No. What are we bought back with? The blood of Jesus Christ. What does it mean to be redeemed? To buy back. It's one of the best examples that you can use someday in your pulpit on what it means to be bought back and be redeemed. Cost $109. I told you I like follow-up. You have any follow-up pictures of this girl named Journey? Sure do. Guess with Journey at 2 years later. That's baby Journey. Baby Journey had a 98% chance of dying. That's baby Journey at age 2. That's baby Journey when she started kindergarten. We spoke with the kindergartners here this morning. That's her in kindergarten. That's her in first grade. That's her in second grade. Something happens in third grade. There's this thing, I know none of you have this, but there's this thing called an attitude that some people have. And yeah, that's baby Journey in third grade where she said, peace out. She was created in the image of God at the moment of conception. Her mom made a mistake, but we were able to save Journey's life by giving her a little bit of progesterone. We used a lot of science, a lot of medicine, and a lot of prayer, and Journey is doing beautifully today. We have now, with our network, documented over 8,000 babies nationwide where the moms had taken the abortion pill, had regrets. We were able to meet their needs, and we've saved the lives of 8,000 people. Each of those hearts there, yeah, it's cool. That's worth applauding for. Each of those hearts have 1,000 people standing in them. That is 8 hearts of 1,000 people, and we are saving more babies' lives every single day. I've tried this 28 times. I've been successful now 21 out of those 28 times, and I've had the privilege of delivering those babies. That is something special. Here's the question. Is it just, well, I'm pro-choice? Or is this something a lot deeper? Is this a spiritual battle? This is a spiritual battle. And that's why, as the spiritual leaders of Hawaii, right here in this class, in the future, we need to help you engage in this spiritual battle and be victorious. So, who created life? Give me one word. Who created life? You got it, God. Genesis 1:26. This is after God had already made all the billions of stars, the billions of galaxies on the earth, all the mountains, all the rivers, all the streams, and he put a special hand on Hawaii because this is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in the world. But then after God had done all of that, God said in Genesis 1:26, he said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." You were all created in the image of God, but guess what? It was not on your birthdays. Who's got a birthday today? Anybody have a birthday? Anybody have a birthday? Today's your birthday? Oh, does anyone have a birthday this week? You were not created in the image of God on your birthday. I can pick when I'm going to induce you or deliver you or do a repeat C-section. You're created in the image of God at that moment of conception, when you were just one cell inside of your mother. Whose flag is that? Did y'all pledge allegiance to the flag this morning? Yeah, we did too, even with the little tiny kids. When you see an image of somebody burning the American flag, how does it make you feel? I live in Pensacola, Florida, the home of the Blue Angels. You ever seen the Blue Angels fly? I've delivered 5 of their babies. Do you know they haven't given me a ride yet? But that's okay, that's beside the point. So we're the home of the Blue Angels, and Blue Angels all train with the F-18 right there in Pensacola. When somebody burns the American flag, it doesn't go over real well in Pensacola. Well, why would somebody burn the American flag? Because the American flag is the image that represents the United States of America. If somebody hates the United States, they're going to want to destroy and desecrate the image that represents the United States, which is the American flag. What is a baby in the womb? At its core foundation, abortion is an attack on the image of God, that baby in the womb, out of a hatred for God. That's why this is a spiritual battle, and that's why we are learning about this in your Christian school, and we are going to prepare you to engage in this battle. This is a animation created by Live Action. We do a lot of work with, you ever heard of Live Action? You know, Lila Rose, great group, you can look them up, but this is an animation that we developed as far as what a baby is like while they're
Implantation
inside the womb.
begins about 6 days after fertilization.
This is every single one of
complete
you
by
and
about
me
12 days.
at the moment of conception.
Oliver's cells organize into 3 layers, each destined to build specific parts of the body. The neural plate appears, the first outline of a brain and spinal cord. And then, at 3 weeks, 1 day, just 22 days after fertilization, the heartbeat can be detected. It will pulse 105 to 120 times per minute by week 4. We can see the development of internal organs like the stomach and early lungs. Cerebral hemispheres develop in the brain. He will withdraw his head with a light touch to the mouth area. Buds of the arms and legs have been developing since week 4. Brainwaves have been recorded around 6 weeks. Between 6 and 7 weeks, Oliver's hands and feet change significantly as separate fingers and toes begin to emerge. He will also begin to move both of his hands. Oliver will move his legs by 7 weeks. Oliver's diaphragm has formed, and he has the hiccups. The heart now has 4 chambers. The fingers separate, elbows bend, and pigments start forming in the eye. Between 7 and 8 weeks, the upper and lower eyelids grow rapidly and begin to fuse together, giving the eyes a nearly closed appearance by 8 weeks. Between 9 and 10 weeks, Oliver's weight increases over 50%. He is no longer called an embryo, but a fetus. Fingernails and toenails begin to appear. And he will also have unique fingerprints. Oliver prefers moving his right hand, a preference that will likely continue after birth. His mother will first sense Oliver's movement between 14 and 18 weeks, but he is very active before then.
Did you catch the baby's name? Yeah.
He develops
Let's go a little
white,
bit further.
waxy protective coating on his skin called vernix. Hiccups exercise his diaphragm, preparing him for breathing. A fine, soft hair known as lanugo nearly covers the entire body. He can perceive vibrations and low-frequency sounds. The eyes are preparing for sight. Babies have been born and survived outside the womb as early as 19 weeks post-fertilization. Oliver's eyes reopen and he will blink in response to loud noises. Oliver has the sense of taste at 26 weeks, and his pupils dilate in response to light at 27 weeks. He can differentiate between high-pitched and low-pitched sounds. He breathes amniotic fluid in and out of the lungs. Oliver will develop preferences for particular voices, especially his mother's, and familiarity with pieces of music. Hair grows on the scalp, and pads in the cheeks thicken to support continuous suction after birth. When he is ready to be born, he will use his arms and legs to move downward into position. By the time Oliver is born, he will have already spent 9 months growing and preparing for life in the world.
Is that a blob of tissue? No. That is exactly what I looked like inside of my mother's womb. That is exactly what you looked like inside of your mother's womb. Attack is not just an attack on the image of God. When it comes to abortion, that is an attack on babies just like that. That's why we are here, to equip you and to train you and prepare you to make a difference in this world. When it comes to life, that's what happens at the moment of your conception. From one cell from your mom, one cell from your dad, when they came together, if we look with the right frequency of light, we can actually see a flash of light. But now we have slowed down that flash of light. We have slowed down that flash of light so that at that moment of conception, when you're created in the image of God, that is what actually is going on. That is that flash of light slowed down. Does that look like a random pattern? No, that's what it means to be created in the image of God with that kind of structure. But then you don't just have one cell. You go from one cell to 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. The three of you there. You might be 3 cells there, and then all of a sudden you're all identical. And then you say, I'm a strong guy. I want to develop all of the muscular system. And then you start to develop all the muscles. And then you say, I'm really smart. I'm going to start the entire neurologic system, the brain and all the nerves. And you say, well, I'm tall. I want to be the structure here. I want to start the whole bones. You all had the same DNA patterns. You all had the same chromosomes, but then you say, I'm only going to read this page, you're only going to read this page, and you're only going to read this page. How do these individual cells know what they're supposed to do tomorrow? Because when you have that kind of a design, there was a designer. We were all designed by God himself. Psalm 139, the psalmist is saying, God, you formed my inward being. You knit me in my mother's womb. On that video you just saw, you saw yourselves being knit together in your mother's womb out of an amazing design from our designer God. Judges 3, 4, 5. If you get a chance this weekend, read those Old Testament chapters. What does it say? It said, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. Well, what were they doing? They were worshiping other gods. How does God like it when people worship other gods? Does that go over real well? No. What also were they doing? They were offering their own children as sacrifices. Did God say, you know what, you're getting on my nerves, y'all are on your own? No. God actually delivered them into the hands of their enemies. He actually strengthened their enemies. Children of Israel would have to spend 10 years, 8 years, repeatedly being put into captivity because they were worshiping other gods and also offering their own children as sacrifices. In the United States since 1973, we have now killed over 64 million babies in the womb. That is every man, woman, and child in California, plus every man, woman, and child in the state of Florida. Is that doing evil in the sight of the Lord? You better believe it. So when it comes to defending the lives of the babies in the womb, it's not just, I'm going to save that life, which is very important. We're really doing this for the future of the United States that you are going to grow up in. Romans 5:8. God showed his love for us that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Besides me and my wife, anybody else ever sinned? If you've sinned ever, wow, you're honest. We know we are all sinners saved by grace. But here's the question. When was your first sin? Do you remember your first sin? I don't. But guess what Scripture tells us? Psalm 51:5 says, surely I was sinful at birth. I was sinful from the time my mother conceived me. That moment of conception. If we were sinners from the moment of conception, did God love sinners? Yes. In fact, God loved us all as sinners so much that he sent his son. He lived a perfect life. He gave his life for us on the cross. And then 3 days he conquered the grave and he rose again for all sinners. Well, if we're sinners from the time our mothers conceived us, shouldn't we be doing everything to defend the lives of those babies from that moment of conception? Yes. We need to defend that image of God in the womb. We need to protect the babies in the womb because that is not just a blob of tissue. That is a person. That is the image of God there inside of the womb. Can we win? I hate it when people say, well, I don't know if we can win this battle. We serve the God of the universe, the God who created all the universe, including everything, all the beauty that you see here in Hawaii. And we have the audacity with the guy who designed all of the universe, created all the galaxies, all the stars, all the mountains, all the streams, all the planets, all the fish, all the mammals, each and every one of us. And we wonder, I don't know if we can win this battle. Suck it up, Buttercup. Yes, we can win this battle, but we need to be prepared and we need to engage in this battle. The body. My body's got 60 trillion cells standing right here in front of you. If my body says, hey, Bill, jump from here to there, and I jump over to here, how many of my cells just got involved in that? Every single one of them. That's how the body of Christ works. You are all part of the body of Christ. How does the body of Christ work? We all work together. We all have different skills. We all have different talents. We all have different experiences. When the body of Christ functions like the body of Christ was designed to function by God himself, that's when we have victory. And that's why we are here today. But the number one tool, sure, it's great to know the science. It's great to know the medicine. But the number one tool is the gospel. It's the gospel that changes hearts, changes minds, and changes behavior. Pop Bible quiz. When you think of the gospel, what four books do you think of when somebody says, turn to the gospel of? Yeah, who said that? You're brilliant. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's the gospel, the good news of how much God loved us and he sent his son. He lived a perfect life. He gave his life for you and me, and he was buried in the grave. And you know what? Satan and his minions, they celebrated day one. They celebrated day two. What happened on day three? Jesus conquered the grave. He rose again. He did it for me, and he did it for you. That's the gospel story. Now, you can see the gospel message from Genesis to Revelation, but what's the fifth book of the New Testament? Pop quiz. Acts. And it's not just Acts. It's the Acts of the Apostles. It's not the hangout of the apostles. It's not go to the beach and chill of the apostles. It's the action of the apostles. They put their faith into action, which is what the purpose of this university and this school is, to put the faith in the information that you are learning and being taught so well by loving teachers and professors so that you can put your faith into action and actually make a change. Because when we put our faith into action, we will save the lives of God's babies in the womb. We will bring healing, redemption, joy, and forgiveness to tens of millions of men and women. And that's when we will save not only the state of Hawaii, but we will save the United States. So it has been a privilege to be with you today. Hopefully you'll learn some stuff that you will remember forever and you won't forget it. And you can not only have this information, but apply it. Because that's the important thing. We just don't want you to have information. We want you to apply it. Because when you're having a discussion with somebody who might not think like you do on babies in the womb, I don't want it to become whoever yells the loudest or who is the angriest or, who has the loudest voice wins. I want you to live with science. I want you to live with technology. And I want you to learn with truth because it is the truth that will really set us free. So we're going to take some time. Hopefully learn some stuff. But if you have any questions that I didn't explain real well, we'll go through it. When we had the younger kids here, we probably had 30 questions and it just kept going boom, boom, boom. So your principal is here with the microphone. So you have any kind of question as far as all the stuff we covered, you just ask me. Just tell me your name, ask the question, and we'll answer it. I'll do the best that I can. So if you have a question, just raise your hand.
All right, we've got one over here, Lile.
Thank God for you getting it started. It's always that first question, then they start to roll. What's your name and what's your question?
My name is Lile, and it's sort of like two questions as one. So, like, if the baby is eating everything that the mother is eating while they're in the womb, if they're like allergic to something that the mother ate, will they respond to it while they're in the womb?
No, we don't have any evidence that allergies develop in the womb. All right, because the baby isn't getting peanut butter, the baby's getting proteins, and the baby's getting carbohydrates.
Right.
So it gets broken down by the mom, goes into the mom's blood, and then the fortified blood with all the nutrition goes to the baby. So we don't see any kind of allergic reaction of a baby on the inside.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask if there's a way to predict if they're going to
Yeah,
have
we don't see
allergies.
that. Now, if mom takes something like alcohol or mom takes a narcotic, we can see that that can have an effect, but not from an allergic reaction from a food that they've eaten. But great question. Nobody's ever asked me that. You're brilliant. Other questions? Yes, sir.
My name's Kale Conte, and I want to know, like, how does the baby know, like, what position to get into to, like, be delivered?
God took care of that. It's amazing. Most of the time, the baby spends its life growing inside of the mom, usually kind of butt down. And it's like, we don't like them to try to come out butt down. And then around 36, 37 weeks, just like they were talking about in the video, the baby actually knows where it's supposed to go. And it'll actually usually, 95% of the time, will develop and will change its position so it's actually head down. So God said, yep, it's time. And they flip around in that last month, and almost always they're pointing in the right direction. God knew what he was doing. Great question. Other questions?
Sorry, Doc, I got one question
Fire away.
regarding that. I know the baby at full gestation is positionally head down and in fluid.
Yep.
Does that position affect? Does gravity affect the baby's position? Like gravity affects us. If we're head down, we're going to get a head rush and probably pass out. How does that?
We don't see that because if you are, in water, you're weightless. So when, you are in the water and you're floating there and you're under the water especially, a lot of times you can't really tell, am I upside down or am I right side up? I mean, even scuba diving, like sometimes you get in real contaminated, dirty water and they'll say, watch your bubbles. Do your bubbles, when you breathe your bubbles out, do they ever go down? No. Your bubbles every single time will go up. So if you don't know which way is up in your scuba diving, it's like, I'm disoriented. I really don't know which way is up. Blow some bubbles, and if you say, well, why are my bubbles going down? No, that's not down. That is up. Follow your bubbles. Great question, no. Other questions?
My name's Nathaniel, and my question was, when a baby dies, do they go to heaven or hell?
They absolutely go to heaven. Whether it is from a baby that died inside the womb. Look at David. When David's son was born and his son died, David mourned. He wept. His son was dead. But then at the end of that mourning period with the loss of his son, David rejoiced because he said, someday I will be reunited with my son. So when a baby who has had nothing that they have done wrong, they will definitely go to heaven. How do you get to meet with that son or that daughter that's died? You've got to know Jesus too. So whether it's an abortion or a baby that died while the baby was still in the womb, a miscarried, those babies go to heaven. We have scriptural evidence for that. But don't forget David's other son, who he mourned, but he also realized he would never see Absalom again. Why? Because he wasn't saved. Great question. Thank you.
We have a question from the upper room.
Oh my goodness. Rapunzel, ask me your question.
Did you deliver your kids?
I did. That's called continuity of care. From the time of delivery till the time of conception to delivery, I had a part of it. So, but I put the line when my daughter became pregnant. It's not good to deliver your own daughter. So I delivered both of my daughters plus 5,000 other babies, but I did not deliver my grandson. That's just not cool. Great question, though, Rapunzel.
If there are like twins or triplets, like at what point will one baby become aware that there are others in the womb also? Like at what point are they like, oh, hey, there's another one?
I think that the knows there's something, but it's not like this is different. It's like, Why do I have somebody else? This has been their whole life for all their lives. I mean, it's kind of like if you grow up and the sun always comes up over on this side, that's been the norm for all of your life. When it comes to if you are a twin, all of your life there's been somebody else moving around. And it's amazing how, even when we have babies that are in the nursery, how they still like to hold each other. They feel comforted even though they're both on the outside. You'd think they want to stretch out and go, I want my own crib, Like, I want to live in the crib, But they don't. They actually like to be together because all of their lives they've been together. So it's not like, who's that kid over there? Who's that kid over there? And you can imagine with quadruplets, I mean, they're like, if we just had one more, we'd have a basketball team. Why do we only have 4? But their whole life they've had that. But they can sense that movement and they can sense pain on the inside. How do I know babies sense pain? Because I've done amniocentesis where we put needles on the inside, and babies don't just freeze the whole time. Babies move around. And sometimes when you're guiding a needle, kids have a life of their own. They have a mind of their own. They want to move. That's what they do. And I've had babies that have bumped up against the needle, and they immediately say, I don't know what's over there, but I don't want to be over there. That hurt. Their heart rates go up, and they will physically move to the other side. Can you imagine that baby who is freaking out because of a little needle that touched them, and then having somebody do an abortion and tearing them apart? These babies feel pain. They are just little patients on the inside, but they deserve respect. They deserve better. Great question, though. These are all different questions from the last session. This is great. Yes?
Kill again. So, like, I know, like, the Bible says that when you die and you go to heaven, then, like, you accept Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, you're like your best, like, self. You're like your best form
Sure.
in life. So I'm thinking, like, if a child or a baby dies, like, in the womb from abortion or, like, from other natural means, like, do they go to heaven as a baby or do they, like, turn an
I think
adult?
they would go to heaven. I think, I've asked pastors that exact same question. Are we going to see a bunch of babies crawling around for all eternity? Are we going to see a bunch of embryos in all eternity? I would think that if anything, they're probably going to... What's the one example we have of a resurrected person? What's their eternal body look like? The example of Jesus. Jesus died, he resurrected, and his resurrected body came back down to earth. And, he ate with the disciples and the apostles, but he also was recognized. He wasn't just this glowing thing that could walk through walls. He had a life. I think that would be an example that we're not going to see a bunch of old people in heaven, and we're not going to see a bunch of embryos and babies in heaven. We're going to see an example pretty much middle-aged like Jesus, because he was the resurrected Christ. Great question, though. Haven't had that question before either.
I have a question.
Fire.
I lost the question. Okay, when...
Now you got to say your
Sorry,
name first.
my name is Miss Pagan. Sorry.
Yes.
And kind of a tag on top of Lile's question,
Yeah.
like, I knew a baby that was born with no arm.
Yeah.
And it was at church, and everybody felt bad for him. But like what you said, that was his normal.
Sure.
He's never missed it because he's never had it. Yeah. So, so in the way the baby sees it, it's nothing lacking,
different.
right?
This has been my life since the moment of my conception. There's a great speaker that I've met who has no arms and no legs.
Yeah, I met him, yeah.
And he is a faithful preacher who will be up here. And does he need some special attention and care? Absolutely. But he loves Jesus and is using his situation to show that love and faithfulness of Jesus, and he is an amazing witness. Mm-hmm. So are all babies born, what we would consider to be perfect? No. But they're all created in the image of God. That's how God wanted them. Even when a baby has Down syndrome, there were 400 million cells from the dad. God did not just say, boy, I wonder which one is going to win this race and who's going to be the Michael Phelps of this race. God knew exactly which one was going to be there. So just because a person is born a little bit different, might have a missing finger, might have missing arms, that's how God wanted them. God loves them, and he had a purpose for them being born like that. They are created in the image of God at that moment of conception, and they can serve Jesus. And Jesus died for them, and he conquered the grave for them, regardless of whether they have arms or legs. Great question. Yes?
My name is Hannah, and so when babies are formed, they can be formed with abnormalities.
Yeah.
And so when a baby has fused fingers, can that operation happen in the womb, or Does it have to
It's
happen?
a great question. It comes down to risks and benefits. Are there risks when we're performing surgery on a baby on the inside? Yes, there's risks to the moms and there's risks to the babies. Moms have a risk of bleeding. Moms have a risk of infection. Moms are probably going to have a C-section most of the time because we already made one incision in their belly. But it comes down to the risks and benefits. Are there things like, say, a baby has a cleft lip or cleft palate? Is it worth the risk to try to fix that baby on the inside when we don't see any benefit rather than waiting until the baby is born on the outside? But now we are diagnosing and seeing that babies have life-threatening conditions, like when you have a tumor on your heart and you say, this is going to kill that baby. We either have to deliver the baby and then do the surgery, or we can operate on that baby on the inside. That is worth the risk when you realize that. So you have to weigh that risks and benefits. So when it comes to some things, like if your fingers are not, separated and you essentially have, looks like there are 5 fingers, but there's actually 3 that are, able to be separated. Is it worth going inside of the womb to separate that one and separate that one? No. Baby's not going to die because of this, but they could have problems just because we did the surgery. So this is a surgery that can be done on the outside. When the baby's life is actually threatened, and that's why we're saving the lives and saying, we have a risk, we need to get the benefit, so we actually will do surgery on those babies because otherwise they will die. Great question, though. Other questions? Yes. I saw that
Over
hand
here,
pop
Dr.
up.
Bill. Dr. Bill, I just had a comment to add.
Sure.
When you were talking about the abortion pill reversal network and adding that progesterone back in, that's something that we do here at the Pregnancy Medical Clinic. So if anybody knows somebody in the community that makes a decision that they regret it, come to us.
Yeah,
and
you've
we
got
can
to hear
help.
locally. And a lot of people don't even know that the abortion pill can be reversed. Kind of like if you go to a restaurant and say you love shrimp scampi, and they don't always have shrimp scampi, and the chef says, I just got some great shrimp in, I'm going to make shrimp scampi. Tell them to put it on the little board when you walk into the restaurant. If somebody doesn't write it up on the board, nobody's going to order the shrimp scampi. So if they don't know it's available, they're not going to order it. When somebody doesn't know that when they've taken the abortion pill and then they regret it, that it is available. So that's why we are here, to let you know so that you can teach other people. You take the abortion pill, you have regrets, we do have a team that can help you right here in Hawaii. Great question. Yes, there was, you got your own mic, go ahead.
My name's Logan, and I have a question about, it's more serious, if the woman is, she's forced to have the baby, raped, and, she doesn't have, the financial need or, just can't really take care of the baby. Does she need to take care of the baby?
Well, let's go through a couple things. If I show a picture of an ultrasound on that screen, and that baby was born to a loving husband and wife, and I show a picture of an ultrasound of a baby on that screen, and that baby was born because of rape or some sort of an attack, how do you tell the difference between the two pictures? I mean, I've got this baby up here at 8 weeks, I got this baby up here at 8 weeks. What's the difference between the two? You can't tell the difference. Now, when it comes to sexual assault and rape, I mean, I have 2 daughters. Yes, we need to thoroughly investigate. We need to prosecute and punish to the fullest extent of the law. And if it was my choice, I would say that's the death penalty for somebody doing something. So this is not a crime of passion. This is a crime of violence. Pregnancy centers, they're there to help these moms. We are not responsible for the sins of our fathers. If our father, committed a sin, I don't get blamed for that and I don't get punished for that. Plus, when a horrible crime occurs, you don't bring healing to that mom who needs help. She needs counseling. She needs Jesus. You don't bring help to her by taking another crime and killing the life of that baby in the womb. So one crime does not get better because of the second crime. And if moms are in a situation where they say, I just will not be able to take care of this baby, there's just no way. Well, what's an option that we can do when somebody can't take care of a baby? Adoption. I mean, we're adopted into the body of Christ. I mean, when it comes to adoption, we have over 2 million people that are doing everything they can to adopt the baby, to adopt another person. We have over 1 million abortions being performed. We have more than enough babies that could be adopted by these. It takes years to adopt a baby, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 to adopt a baby. That is a problem. We have so many people that are trying to adopt a baby, and you have so many people that are having abortions. Let's get the two together. So pregnancy centers, they're there to meet all of the needs of the mom. The mom says, well, I don't have insurance. They will help her with health care. Mom says, I don't have a place to live. They will help them with housing. Mom says, well, I don't have any diapers and I don't have any food. Moms will help, the pregnancy centers will help them out. But then if they get to that point, we always want to prefer having the mom and the baby together. And you know what? When it comes to pregnancy, what percentage of pregnancies involve a guy?
100%.
100%. I mean, there was one pregnancy 2,000 years ago. His name was Jesus. That was probably the only exception. Every other pregnancy involves a guy. So the number one tool for moms to make the correct decision and to continue with their pregnancy and have their baby is ultrasound. That is really a womb with a view where we can actually see that baby on the inside. The number two tool is having a dad that supports. That's why when it comes to being involved in a pregnancy center, this is not a lady thing, this is not a chick thing. As guys, if you're a guy, raise your hand. Guess what? Your God-given duty and role is to be a defender and a protector. We need to have more men involved in pregnancy centers. Even when you are a young man, they need to be involved. But just because the circumstances, it doesn't devalue that baby because of the circumstances of their conception. They all deserve life. Great question, Neil. Yes, ma'am.
So, like, if you, like, oh, my name is Peacocky. If you, like, take the abortion pill and, like, the baby's already formed, where does the baby go?
Mom still passed the baby. So you'll have a baby with fingers and toes and with eyes. It doesn't just dissolve. You know, we have about a 72-hour window when a mom has regrets that we can give them the antidote medication. But give you an idea of this process. You've seen the babies that are there on the inside. The abortion pill kills that baby, but now the mom still has to pass that baby. One of the medications, when I have a patient who is 40 weeks and she's got an 8.5-pound baby, but she hasn't gone into labor yet, I can use this medication called Cytotec, and I use 25 micrograms of this medication to get a mom to go into labor and deliver an 8.5-pound baby at 41 weeks. When it comes to the abortion pill, yes, you take the abortion pill, which withdraws all the support and lowers the levels of progesterone, but you still have to have contractions and deliver that baby. So when the baby is dead on the inside, do you just give that baby 25 micrograms of Cytotec, which is the same amount that I use to deliver an 8.5-pound baby? No, they're not prescribed 25 micrograms. They're actually given 800 micrograms of Cytotec to cause such violent contractions to push that baby out. But the moms are then now seeing these babies. And moms don't have an ultrasound. 35% of the time, moms will be a month off as far as how far along that pregnancy is. We actually have moms who are using the abortion pill, and this is a horrible experience. Most of these moms, sadly, are alone. Their parents might not even know that they're pregnant. They don't have their friends with them to support them. Most of the time, they are alone. They're having bleeding, cramping, and pain, having regrets, and there's nobody there to support them. But then they pass this baby, and they can see that this is not a blob of tissue. This is a baby that has fingers and toes, fingerprints, toe prints, eyes on the face that are looking at them. And we have a lot of these moms who are bringing in these precious little babies to pregnancy centers and said, I had no idea. What do I do with this baby? I can't flush it. I can't throw it in the trash. What do I do? Well, there are a lot of pregnancy centers which will actually say, let's honor the life of your baby. And they'll actually have funerals for those babies, and a lot of times they'll even put up a little gold plaque. And a lot of pregnancy centers will have a memorial for these precious little babies that deserve to be respected. But then, do we condemn those moms and say, I can't believe you did this bad, evil thing? No, because these moms have regrets. And this is the perfect time to share the healing that comes from the gospel. Again, this is a spiritual battle. Do we wish these moms had made a better decision, they hadn't aborted baby? Yes. But when they've made a bad decision, just like every one of us, you guys and the adults have made bad decisions before, that's when the healing comes. Men and women are hurting. They need healing. Healing comes from forgiveness, and true forgiveness only comes through the blood of Christ. That's why we immediately share the gospel with these, to bring healing to them. Great question, though. Other questions? Yes?
Like when I know there's like people who like are deformed, like maybe sometimes like they're twins, but then they like get like fused together, like in the womb. Like if they're given birth, like is it very hard for that?
Well, when it comes to Siamese conjoined twins, we can see that early on ultrasound. I've never had a set of conjoined twins, but if we did, you really need to deliver them by C-section. It's like you just can't get two babies that are attached. And you know what's really wild, we talked about before day 13, they can divide into identical copies. If twins divide sometimes during the day on that 13th day, depending on when during the day those twins divided, that determines whether they are joined at the chest, joined at the head, joined at the side, because the body is developing and growing. And so some babies that are joined at the head, they were, that was during that time on day 13. But now we are doing so well, mostly because of the imaging, because before they had great MRIs and ultrasounds, you'd see babies and you'd be like, I don't even know what book to look at because I've never seen a baby like this. I don't know where all the arteries and veins and blood vessels are. You didn't know where to cut and where you couldn't cut. Now we can do imaging and get the view of the inside so teams can get together, and usually we are very successful in separating baby A from baby B. Great question. Other questions? Yes?
What's the difference between a Plan B and an abortion pill?
Okay, let's go over that. Plan B versus abortion pill. Both are available. This is an excellent question because you know what? There are a lot of pastors that don't know the difference between Plan B and the abortion pill. I was on a show with a nationally syndicated radio host who you would know his name, and he didn't know the difference between Plan B and the abortion pill. So let's go over it. They're both evil. They both kill a baby in the womb. That's what they're designed to do. Plan B. This is indicated for taking 72 hours after a man and a woman have had intercourse. How does it work? If a woman, possibly might be pregnant, she doesn't even have a positive pregnancy test, what is the signal that has a woman have her menstrual cycle? It's not progesterone going up, it's progesterone level going down. That's when a person has their cycle. Plan B is a progesterone. So there's a cycle going on, the woman has unprotected sex or has sex, and then she takes Plan B. It's a huge dose of progesterone on the first day, and then no progesterone on the second day. And that will force her to have a menstrual cycle. If there was a very early pregnancy, that pregnancy would be flushed out. How is that different from the abortion pill? Instead of 72 hours after they had intercourse, the abortion pill is indicated for 70 days. This is a person who already has a positive pregnancy test, already has a heart that is beating, already has a baby there on the inside. It withdraws all the support, and the baby, we've got a great animation we can provide to your school. We have a 3.5-minute animation of how the abortion pill actually works, because we can sit here and describe it, but it was important enough that we designed a 3D animation. So with the abortion pill, very different. These babies are 10, 12 weeks, and here in Hawaii, the Planned Parenthood and the other centers will provide it up to 11 weeks and 6 days. These are babies that are jumping up and down. I have video of my daughter inside of my wife's womb jumping and sliding, just like it was a little bit of a playground down the inside. And they're actually, last year I researched it, there were 28 articles around the world on how to use the same abortion pill but with different doses to abort a baby up to 24 weeks gestation. We have babies that are surviving at 21 weeks, and they are showing you how to abort a baby. And then they'll say, for doctor and patient comfort, they'll recommend fetal asystole. Well, what does that mean? Well, fetus means little one. A means none. Systole means systolic contractions. They recommend taking a needle, guiding it through the skin of the mom, going right inside the womb, go right to the baby's heart, and then inject that baby on the inside at 22, 23, 24 weeks, injecting that baby with potassium chloride, which is the same medicine that's used for lethal injection to kill a criminal. Injecting that heart with potassium chloride to kill that baby. Why? Because we don't want the baby to be delivered and still moving around and with a beating heart, struggling to breathe. So for doctor and patient comfort, they recommend fetal asystole. That's how demonic and evil this has gotten. But that's the abortion pill, and that's the difference between the morning after pill and the abortion pill. And the morning after pill is what's called Plan B. The abortion pill is referred to as Plan C. Both are evil, but they're very different in their mechanism. Yes?
Hi, my name's Tiffany, and my question was if like a woman is pregnant and she drinks, does it like affect the baby? And if it does,
It
how
actually
would it?
absolutely can. What's called fetal alcohol syndrome is the number one cause of non-chromosomal genetic mental retardation. So yes. Now, do we know how much alcohol before you develop fetal alcohol syndrome? No. Could it be just a little bit? Might be. But the recommendation, the old recommendation was that you need to moderate and not drink much. Now the recommendation is no alcohol. But yes, fetal alcohol syndrome is the number one most common cause of non-genetic mental retardation in babies. Great question. Thank you.
So, my name is Bishop, and if it's okay to ask, how did you become a Christian?
I was led to the Lord by my parents, probably at about age 8. And I was raised, with a biblical worldview. I was blessed to that I knew that there was a God that loved me, but I also knew that I was a sinner, so I was led to the Lord by my parents. I did not know that I was going to be an obstetrician. I was interested in medicine because when I was a kid, I was in the hospital a lot. I had injuries, had to have plastic surgery, had an appendicitis, and had to have my appendix. So I was kind of used to going to the hospital. I had a great surgeon named Dr. Krause who was doing plastic surgery on my head, and my dad was pretty much passing out, and Dr. Krause said, hey, why don't you get a mirror here? And so the nurse brought a mirror, and so I was actually able to watch him do plastic surgery on my head. And I thought, this is cool. I thought he was the coolest guy. So I was interested in medicine. But then I wasn't really planning on doing obstetrics and delivering babies. My personality, it's kind of hyper a little bit, so I really saw myself going into ER or trauma. That was where I was kind of go. But then I was actually on an orthopedics rotation, broken bones and replacing knees and hips and stuff like that. And I was on the rotation, one of the most demanding surgical rotations you can go on. And the chairman of the orthopedics department saw that I was reading a book about obstetrics. He goes, what are you doing reading Williams Obstetrics on my rotation? And I said, I just enjoy it. He goes, are you going into obstetrics? I said, no, I think I want to do trauma or ER. He goes, trust me, if you're on my rotation and you're reading Williams Obstetrics, you need to deliver babies. And I had never thought about that. And then when I got into it, I realized this is really cool. I get to know the patients. And how many times are patients happy to go to the hospital? Does somebody say, ooh, I get my gallbladder out tomorrow. I can't wait. No. I broke my bone I broke my femur. I get to go to the hospital and get a pin in my leg. Nobody's happy about that. When somebody goes to the hospital because they're having a baby, they're excited about that. They have a smile on their face. They're not scared. So I realized I get to be there during one of the most precious times in somebody's life when they're having a baby. But also with GYN, all sorts of cool surgery. I mean, robotics are awesome, to be able to work with a robot. So I got to see them when they were young, got to help them when they were younger, got to operate them on them when they were older. So to me, it was just a beautiful thing, and that's what attracted me. But I was blessed to be led to the Lord by my parents. Great question. Thank you.
All right, we'll take one more question from Kale and one more question from
And I'll
Keely.
hang out afterwards.
Yep.
We got one more question from the stage, but I'll hang out for any questions y'all have.
2 more, one right here and one right here.
Okay. He's saying ladies first, but...
What led you to being a helping women give birth to children? Like, you could have chose like any other medical field. Why did you specifically choose that?
One, it was where God was just, was leading me, and I had that interest, and I wanted to have happy patients. I wanted to have patients that were, help them through one of the happiest times of their lives. So that's what attracted me to obstetrics. As far as, did I think that my wife and I were going to have a full-time ministry traveling the world trying to save the lives of babies? No. In fact, when I finished my residency training, the practice we took over was a big abortion clinic, and we stopped all the abortions on the first day. And that was really our plan. We figured, we'll take over the practice, we'll stop all the abortions, and then we'll start my rest of the practice. But it was on a Sunday after church when, for the first time, I actually had a key to the abortion clinic. And I'd been on the first floor. I'd seen like my office, the exam rooms, the waiting room, the front desk. I'd seen all that, but I'd never been upstairs. It was up on the second floor where they actually were aborting babies. We're on the same road as Pensacola Christian College, big church over here, big church over here. And nobody was ever protesting. I'll never forget that Sunday after church when there was a set of stairs. And I'd never been up those stairs. And I walked up those stairs and I kept thinking, how many moms with a baby on the inside have walked up these same stairs? I then turned the corner, turned to my left, and there was the abortion machine, there was the exam table, all the instruments for Monday morning's abortion. And I said, my goodness, how many thousands of moms with a baby on the inside have walked up that same set of stairs I just went up to, and that baby's life was lost up on the inside, and that brought, hurting and torment for these moms. Babies had died. But then I called my pastor, I said, hey, I told him the story, and I said, I'd love to do a presentation at church. So I did a presentation at that church, led to an invitation to another church, and now my wife and I will probably speak at 100 different events all across the country each year, trying to teach these kind of tools. While we're here in Hawaii, I think we have a dozen different events, so this is, throughout your life, you're always thinking, God, how can you use me? Where are you calling me to serve your kingdom here on earth? We know without a doubt that when we're here doing this as a husband and wife, this is where we're supposed to be. So always be looking for not only what do you want me to do for my life, how do you have me serve your kingdom while I'm here on earth? Yes, last question, last official question.
My name is Keely, and my question is how does smoking affect a baby? Like if a woman smokes, how does that affect a baby? Because you said whatever the mom eats or drinks.
Well, first of all, when you look at smoking, there's lots of different warning signs. You can see the little signs on the little labels on the side of a pack of cigarettes that it causes harm to babies. How? When there's a fire, you had a horrible fire here, on the island. When you have a fire and you have combustion, what are one of those products of the smoke? Carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is toxic to not only your body, but it's toxic to the baby. Carbon monoxide is bad, oxygen is good. They both bind to the same part of the body when the red blood cells. But the carbon monoxide binds 20 times stronger than oxygen. So you have all your red blood cells that are looking for oxygen, but carbon monoxide goes by and it grabs onto it. So what does that mean? If it's bound with carbon monoxide, it's not taking any oxygen to deliver it to the rest of the body, the brain, the heart, the muscles. So first, just having carbon monoxide is very bad for the developing baby. Plus, it's going to affect the other nutrition that's going to the baby. Babies that have had smoking moms are usually really much smaller. So smoking affects so much, but mostly it's because of all the toxins that are in smoking. Because yes, we know smoking can cause emphysema, smoking can cause cancer, smoking can cause lots of damage, but it's that carbon monoxide. When you're burning a cigarette, that's carbon monoxide that's preventing oxygen from getting to the baby. Great question, nobody's asked that. You guys are brilliant. Excellent questions. Hopefully you're leaving with some new tools that you didn't have in your brains when you walked in. Use them and serve Jesus. All right. God bless you all.
All right. Give him one more round of applause.